What's going on, everyone? Coach KG here. And before we jump into this incredible episode, we are looking for a few individuals who are looking to get to the next level and optimize their nutrition, training, accountability, and just overall get the results they deserve and stop struggling, especially with the change in season. We always say summer bodies are made in the winter. So we can't wait to help some of you awesome people. All you have to do is send us a message with the keyword next level to our Instagram, which is ColossusFit, ColossusFit, and we can't wait to see you there, and let's jump right into it.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Fit, Healthy, and most of all, Happy podcast. As always, I'm your coach and host, Josh, here with
his co-host and co-coach, KG, and I'm in the house.
We're actually in the garage filming another banger for you. So Kyle's in his house today, actually. So he's not just in the house, he owns the house. And he actually came up with today's killer episode. He's really passionate about this. He's going to give you the background and for what's to come in today's amazing episode.
So years ago, I remember there were a number of things I wanted to change in my life to essentially become more productive, to become happier, to just overall be better. And I'll never forget, it's a list of things that I wrote and I started to implement on those. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because about 2 weeks ago, I decided I wanted to become more productive, just change some things, fine tune some things. And to give you some background, just the little things that help you become unstoppable. Going into this season, it's obviously a little bit harder for most people. It's darker, it's colder. I have no issue with getting to the gym. Nutrition's great. Everything's solid, but it's those little things that I'm like, man, I need to capitalize and I need to just reflect and start to implement. So I came up with 7 things personally, but I wanted to kind of create something more applicable to you guys to start to think about if you want to get to that next level, if you want to become unstoppable, be resilient, and just these are the things that I came up with. So the first thing, I'm going to just waste none of your time here, is just what is your education to entertainment ratio and how can we improve that? So I go through different phases. I love audiobooks. I love all these different things, but I realized my ratio needs to be way better. I'm talking minimum 4-to-1 ratio, education, hours and hours on end, and entertainment a little bit. I don't mind a funny prank video. I don't mind a show here and there, some sports and stuff. But I truly believe that in order to just really have the right mindset to keep pushing forward, we need to constantly fill ourselves with great stuff, with inspirational stuff. And, I get inspired because Josh is doing his 52 book per year challenge and he's making some great headway. And I'm looking at how many books I've read. I'm like, okay, here's what I'm going to do this month. I'm going to dial in here. I started listening to a new audiobook. I got my Kindle going now so I can read before bed and, just little things, right? So that's my personal thing. That's number one. And I want you to think about how you can get more of that in your life instead of having that ratio out of whack where it's you're doing 3 hours of entertainment and then half an hour of education. That's one thing I think can help a lot of people, and that's number one.
Yeah, and some great pro tips. If you're listening to this, you obviously have found a good time to listen to an educational podcast. So you're already above the mark, you're already doing fantastic. But even just while you're driving, while you're walking, these are great times to listen to books, podcasts to improve your knowledge and even just get excited about education. And education has it kind of makes you feel oh, I hate that word. That's the worst, because you think school, you think really rigid tradition, learning things you don't care about. But self-education is one of the best things, because anything that intrigues you, you can dive into, you can become knowledgeable on. And I find learning gets you excited to try new things, to approach new things, to have a deeper understanding. So those are great tips. And even the concept for me, my Kindle before bed has been fantastic, because I'm a big believer, I try to get to bed at the same time, but I don't like sleeping till I'm actually tired, because if we try to just sleep when we're not tired, usually that's when we lay there restless, it becomes a little miserable. So I love the concept of I read till I'm I cannot keep my eyes open, and I find I fall to sleep like a rock, and I get a lot of reading in as well. So for me, that has just been one amazing mover. And it's one of those things where you do that and maybe you read for 30 minutes each night, maybe you read for an hour, but let's say you were to do an hour 7 times a week, that's 7 hours of reading a week. You can almost finish a lot of books in that time, depending on how big of a book you have. Some books are definitely a little bit more intense. I know 1,000-page books are 26 hours of reading, which is pretty crazy, but it's amazing how fast you can power through them when you kind of act in some of these little tips. And even I was saying how one of our friends signed up at a really cool gym we've been going to. It's this really big, awesome gym. And I was saying how amazing it is for him because he likes it more. Even for him just consistently being in there 5 times a week, like I know that's going to be so game changing for them. So you need to find ways to make education fun, consistent, and regimented, because even myself, I'm like, this is just a good time to buckle down, to learn, to grow, to do more. And knowledge is power when applied, as I always say. So I love this. I thought this was awesome. And number 2 is just absolutely perfect. You heard me talk about this a little bit on Monday, and this is something it's so hard to do, but I'm working on it too. And that's no more mindless scrolling. It's so easy, and they compare social media to be like a casino. You're just scrolling through, waiting for that dopamine hit. You're waiting to laugh, see something you like, something that will cause you to light up, when you could be spending that time like actually being present, enjoying things, and kind of creating thoughts from within, as opposed to just being exposed to things. So some great tips, like the 2 things I've really noticed were a big game changer for me, were obviously limit the accounts you have in general. So for me, I'm like, TikTok is where I draw the line. Like, I see how addictive it is. I love memes. I love laughing. So I chose not to actually have a page. We have the Colossus page, but I don't even have the login for it. Kyle's on top of that, because to me, that'd just be too good. Like, I love a good meme. So I will look at Reels. And when I do, I set a timer for 30 minutes twice a week. I find that's like a reasonable time. I'll do it when it's appropriate. I'll do it once I've done all my other work. I just find it's so easy. Like, the second it's uncomfortable, just get there and be like, give me something exciting. And it just overstimulates you. It doesn't make you feel good. I find it makes me too jittery, and that's something that's worked really well. Even just logging out of Instagram is another fantastic tip that's worked good for me. I just try to be on the Colossus more, and I try to use it positively by talking to all of you amazing people in the DMs, posting content, posting tips, and really just producing great content there. And I find all the people like we follow and engage with, it's a really good community. So that's been really good for me. Obviously, like setting dark mode on your phone, doing screen time limits, doing all these different things, like really just make a point to say, okay, and even podcasts I listened to, the individual was saying how he keeps a list of all the biggest regrets people had on their deathbeds about their lives. And he's had mentioned how one of his regrets he imagined he would have was being on his phone less, because it's so easy when you look back on your week, like, wow, I wasted time on my phone doing this. So I think it's a good reminder to say, hey, I'm going to get in front of this. I'm going to make sure to not do it. I'm going to make sure I'm moving the needle.
I love that. And like, it's one of those realizations I had to have for myself. And this is like a full transparency episode, because I know a lot of people who struggle. And myself, I was just like, okay, I'm going to log out of my personal page. You know, I even realized I knew too many things about like different influencers, different people. And now that I'm just on Colossus, you know, I'm having more great conversations with all of you. Content's great, like Josh was saying. I'll only go to look for like different inspiration from other content creators as well. And it's just, it's amazing, because there's just so much more productive work. And even replacing that with tip number 1, like now I'm like, okay, well, I'm not scrolling here. I'm not going through reels and whatnot, you know, which I was doing a lot of, to be completely honest. Now I'm reading more, which is awesome. And, you know, just, it's about having those hard conversations. Like, I know a lot of times people don't want to face that. And oftentimes I struggle with that, where I'm like, you know, just, I don't want to kind of come to the reality of like looking at the screen time or seeing how much time spent doing this. But it's one of those things that your life can transform when you actually sit down and have those hard conversations, make those hard changes. And that's what this episode's all about. But number 3 is just like optimizing the morning routine. And even myself, like I was saying, you know, I definitely building habits are quite simple, honestly, but there are those times where falling out of the habit can also be challenging, you know, such as someone, let's say, you know, for a week, someone's showing up at my house doing renovations, 7:30 or whatever, and they're just kind of like, you know, around. I find that little things can throw me off, whereas like, you know, I really need to just become more dialed in, and like, you know, take times like that, I'll be like, okay, well, I'm going to get up earlier so I have more time to meditate, so I have more time to get my journaling in and do those little things. So essentially for myself, even just with, you know, different time changes, different weather changes and everything like that, I'm really just sitting down and figuring out the most perfect routine. And I don't think I'll ever have it fully dialed in, but I'm always asking myself, what makes me feel the best? What can I take out? What can I add in? You know, what's kind of just like a time waster? You know, if I'm spending 15 minutes in the morning getting garbage ready to put out for the garbage guy or whatever, I'm like, what am I doing here? So I think it's just a good reminder for you to set your tone for the rest of your day. How can you set yourself up for success? What's going to motivate you to have a killer day ahead? So I'm just still optimizing that, you know, getting out on that morning walk first thing like Josh always does, and it's super motivating to see. And I just think that alone can help you in so many different ways.
Absolutely. Like, the morning routine is just a great time to get up. You can choose when you get up. You can always get up a little earlier to make sure you have that time consistently in the morning to invest on yourself. And once again, speaking to what I said earlier, you can snowball those positive actions where if you're meditating every day, you're journaling, you're outside for walks, you're getting sunlight. Like these are all things that compound, and it just becomes part of your day, and it becomes something you can enjoy. It's your time. It's your time to make sure you get your mind right. You're leveled up. You're in a great headspace before you get on and kind of deal with the craziness that is the world. So I think that was incredibly well said. And the next one is to actually have more dedicated time for deep work and more silent time to yourself. So really just spending some time when you need to get something done to buckle down and do it by limiting distractions. It can be so easy to have to do something, or you walk, or even I saw a thing now, it's crazy that it's even a reality. They have like a VR goggles that you can wear where you can just bring the TV around with you. It'll put a projection while you do your laundry or whatever. And like there's just such a desire to be so hyper stimulated now, and like it really just brings down the quality. And I mean, I myself, having been in university, I used to like remember, I know people would be like, I studied for 20 hours for this, and I'd be like, why? Like there's no need. And I know what that study was. It was them studying, scrolling Instagram, looking at a page, texting someone, looking at their phone. Like instead, you can get a lot more done by being intelligent about it. Instead of being in the gym doing bad, poor quality workouts for 2 hours, you'd be better off coming in there with a great intensity, great focus for like 45 minutes. So case in point, if you can really just spend some time figuring that out, and some things that have worked well for us are the Pomodoro technique. That has been absolutely fantastic. I love doing it in the morning. I love the concept of eating a frog, doing something I don't want to do. So eating the frog is doing that hard thing. You're not actually going to be eating a frog, don't worry, but you're going to be doing that hard thing in the morning. It's something you've been putting off. You can battle it out. And when you get that done, especially when you have good clarity early in the morning, it just feels fantastic because you have your day in front of you. And oftentimes there's that thing we put off. It's over our head. It makes us feel uncomfortable. We feel that feeling of procrastination. We're like, oh, I should be doing this. I should be doing this. I should be doing this. So by getting out there and getting that done, you're just going to give yourself every advantage and put yourself in the best situation to succeed.
Absolutely. It's one of those things I wrote down because I'm like, man, I need to make sure I'm optimizing. And, even just multitasking is another thing. I think like I've been pretty bad at it, where sometimes I'd be like doing something, but I'm not like fully doing it because I'm doing something else. And it's just all these little things that I'm like, okay, this will get you to that next level. And even small examples of being in the gym, but like not actually being in the gym, like your mind's elsewhere, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, and it ends up being a poor quality workout. Even just that time to yourself is so important. So I know some of you work wise, you're like, okay, well, I'm with people, it's not going to be exactly deep work, but then how can you spend that time just like being silent with your, like, I just feel like it's such an amazing thing because you feel so great, especially like I love being around people, but when you do have that time to meditate, to chill out, to spend time with your thoughts, I feel like it leaves you to be just absolutely unstoppable. And that's even when I come up with my best ideas, is when I get some quiet time, some alone time. So just something to think about. But number 5 is focusing and remembering goals. So what I mean by this is there's times where, and I'm sure all of you have done it, you set a goal for New Year's, January 1st, here's what's going to take place. You check in 9 months later, a lot of the times at the end of the year, and you're like, man, I forgot I said I was going to do this. So essentially what I've gone ahead and done is just actually written down on a piece of paper. I actually got it from Josh. I saw he did it once. And just every time I sit down on my desk in my office, I actually have that list of 5 things right in front of me. And I look at it every day now. So I've been guilty of setting goals and just, I kind of remember them, but I don't fully have them like in front of me. Sometimes I'll check in and be like, oh, I forgot I said I would do that. So I think like my message for you is just to spend time thinking about like how you can most optimize your goals and how you can remember them. And once again, just not forget them. And I think that's super important. Even a pro hack and something that I think will benefit everyone, and something I need to get back to, is just doing it every single day, where I wrote down, and I actually picked up a piece of paper in my journal today, getting back into it. Because once again, some of these habits can fall out of just life changes, and I'm like, okay, I need to get back to it. And I wrote down 5 goals. It feels incredible. Absolutely nailed it. Did my gratitude. And that's something that I think can definitely go a long way. But I know Josh writes down his goals every day, and it's something that I think can definitely help a lot of you in so many different ways.
Yeah, just the concept of even rewriting them out is so powerful. And even I want to get even less from my digital. Like I look at all my goals digitally. I don't rewrite them, but I look at them every morning. I have my monthly goals, my yearly goals, my 5-year goals, core values, all these things. And like I just find, to me, it's like a ground and compass. Like it's like when you have that north, you have that North Star, you know what you're looking towards. It can bring in those small actions. Because if you're like, you have a goal to have a 6-pack and you're 400 pounds and you see that goal and you're like, gotta be a 6-pack. When you go to eat that food, you're gonna say, I want that 6-pack. I'm gonna eat something healthier. I am gonna go to the gym today. So they can be very motivating, and just having goals just gives you something more clarity in your journey of where you want to be. And it's just such a game changer. And it's definitely something to be mindful of in general. And then the next one is to ask yourself, what's missing in your journey? Where are you perhaps slacking? Are you not trying hard enough in the gym? Are you missing out on something that you used to do well? For me, I noticed it's harder for me to meditate. I used to do it at a set time, my morning routine, but as I'm watching my son, I'm not able to really just like go off and meditate for 10 minutes. So I try and find time to budget it in. And if I want to be super serious about it, probably do it at night. The other alternative is at the gym. I go in the sauna and I do my deep breathing there. I'll just look at the clock outside, look for 10 minutes and just try and do some solid breathing, or I'll try and do some box breathing, which is 4 seconds in, hold, 4 seconds out, hold for 4 seconds. So 4, 4, 4, 4. But I'll try and do one or the other. And like even just identifying the gaps in your game, and they'll always be changing. Like you'll be super on top of your nutrition, but your gym could suffer. You'll be crushing the gym, but your nutrition can suffer. And your goal is to bring up everything as much as you can. And when you focus on things that are lacking, it gives you the opportunity to improve them, build them out, and see more change. And then eventually you can get to a new level and a new standard and be at a great place.
Yeah, and like honestly, just being able to face what it is and like think of what makes you feel good. Like there's so many different things. I'm like, these leave me feeling absolutely incredible. Why am I not doing it? Okay, I've got to add it in. But there's nothing wrong with like having different seasons in your life where things come in, things go, and you know, things change as well, right? And that's where even for myself, when I get into a different routine, I'm like, okay, well, we're going to Florida for 2 months. Now I've got to get situated with this new situation. And I know a lot of people, it takes a bit of time. So to like, don't beat yourself up, but just pay attention, and the best results come from actually doing it. If you're like, meditation is my thing, it makes me feel incredible, I feel 50%, 100% better, you have to kind of try to find that way like Josh was mentioning, which I really liked, because even myself, like I know journaling leaves me feeling so much better, but oftentimes like it's the last thing I want to do, whereas I'm like, okay, I've got to make this program, I wanted to type this caption, I want to do this post. Like I think it's important to do all those things, but I'm like, how can I find a way to integrate this thing that's going to help me feel even 20% better? Like writing the goals, doing the gratitude, getting things down on paper. So now that I'm reworking my routine, I'm like, okay, this is the thing that's missing. That's what I've been missing in this a little bit. So I just wanted to share that as well. And then last thing is just simply paying attention to who you interact with. And this is something that, you know, as we grow up, I feel like becomes more and more important, and I guess we pay attention to it more. I feel like when you're younger, you kind of just are like, all right, I'll just hang out with whoever's here. But it is a very good question. And one thing that I've always been very, like, I guess aware of is just how I feel after certain interactions, how I feel at any given point. Like when I leave the gym, how do I feel? I feel so much better. When I hang out with Josh, fired up. You know, it's great conversation. We're pumped up. When I hang out with some other people from high school, I have those thoughts where I'm like, they're energy drainers, right? And like the thing is that you really do have to pay attention to that and ask yourself, how can you limit the energy drainers and how can you bring up more energy chargers? And I think that's such an important question, because oftentimes like people just give time to whoever and ask themselves, and they'll be like, oh, why am I feeling so bad? And it's just like you're hanging out with people who aren't positive, who are complaining, who just aren't really good for you. And like even for us, we've been really trying to hang out with more people that bring you up. And I know it's hard to find, but there are different ways. Spending time in the gym, talking to more positive people, you know, just joining different groups, networks, all that great stuff. Like there are a lot of different ways, but paying attention with who you interact with is something that can make you absolutely unstoppable, and spending more time with great people will be incredible for sure.
So there you go. There you have it. Those are 7 tips to level up. And it all starts with introspection. Ask yourself where you can improve, and you will improve. And once again, as Kyle mentioned, if you want to go to the next level, DM us next level on Instagram to @ColossusFit, ColossusFit, and we will guarantee to get you there. Once again, within our coaching program, together we cannot fail. We're here to optimize every component of the journey so you become fitter, healthier, and happier. So once again, you can DM us on Instagram with the keyword next level.